Hey there, have you ever been lying in bed, just staring at the ceiling thinking, come on, just fall asleep, why is this so hard? Well, if that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. We're about to get into why trying so hard to sleep might be the very thing that's keeping you wide awake.
So let's just get right into it, because we've all been there, right? The more you desperately chase after sleep, the faster it seems to run away. It turns into this high-pressure job that you feel like you're completely failing at, and that anxiety just builds and builds with every tick of the clock.
And this is really the absolute heart of the problem. We, completely by accident, have turned sleep from this natural, easy, passive thing into some kind of active performance. And think about it, when you're performing, your brain is on, it's alert, it's monitoring everything. It's doing anything but resting.
You know, there's actually a name for this whole thing. It's called sleep monitoring. That's the technical term for when your brain starts treating sleep like a project it has to manage. And this management mode kicks you into what scientists call hyperarousal, which is basically just a fancy way of saying your brain is on high alert, the total opposite of what you need to drift off.
This line from our source material just nails it, doesn't it? The second your brain decides sleep is a task to be completed, you've already lost. Because sleep isn't a task at all. So, what does this monitoring actually look like when you're lying in bed?
Well, let's start with maybe the number one offender, the clock. That little digital display on your nightstand, it can so easily become your worst enemy in the middle of the night.
And here's what's so fascinating. This isn't just in your head. When you roll over and see that it's 2 a.m., your brain doesn't just log the time. Oh no, it triggers a literal spike in cortisol, your body's main stress hormone. And boom, you're instantly doing that panicked mental math, right? Oh no, if I fall asleep right now, I only get 5 hours.
And this really says it all. At 1 a.m., you're probably still pretty calm. You're thinking, okay, I'm a little restless, but it's fine. But that 2 a.m. time check, it's like flipping a switch straight into panic mode. Suddenly, the day is ruined before it's even started. The situation hasn't actually changed all that much, but your reaction to it has, all thanks to seeing one little number.
So, how do we break this cycle? It's actually way simpler than you'd think. First, just physically turn your clock around so you can't see it. Super simple, but so effective. Second, you got to make a deal with yourself. It's the no-go rule. You are not allowed to check the time for any reason until your morning alarm goes off, period. And third, start to notice that tiny little unconscious urge to just lift your head and check. The moment you feel it, just notice it, and then focus on the feeling of your head being heavy on the pillow instead.
Okay, so that's the clock. But let's talk about another kind of sleep monitoring. One that's not about time, but about your senses. Maybe for you it's the sound of a car passing, or maybe it's a fan. This is called sensory monitoring. Here's a perfect example. If you've got a fan that oscillates, that moves back and forth, you might find yourself lying there, actively waiting for the cool air to hit your face again. You're anticipating it. And that act of waiting, of scanning your environment for a sensation, well, that's the exact opposite of letting go.
The fix here is all about removing that anticipation. So first off, if you use a fan, turn that oscillation feature off. A constant, steady breeze is predictable, and your brain can tune it out much more easily. And second, if you catch yourself waiting for any kind of sound or sensation, you need to actively redirect your mind. Try doing a quick body scan. Just bring your attention to the feeling of your feet, then your calves, slowly moving your awareness up your body. It pulls your focus inward, away from that external trigger.
And finally, let's talk about the last piece of the environmental puzzle, the war on light. And I don't just mean the sun coming through your window, I mean those teeny tiny little lights that you probably think are totally harmless.
It might sound a little dramatic, but it is absolutely true. That little red standby light on your TV or the little blue one on your computer charger, it's just enough light to send a signal to your brain that says, hey, it's not totally dark in here. And that can actually disrupt the production of melatonin, the hormone that helps you sleep.
So the solution is what our source calls the double down on darkness strategy. It's a simple two-pronged attack. First, get yourself a cheap roll of black electrical tape. It's about to become your new best friend. Go on a mission in your bedroom and cover up every single one of those little LED lights. Second, for any light you just can't control, get a good contoured sleep mask. You know, the kind that has little pockets for your eyes so it doesn't press down on your eyelids.
So we've handled the clock, we've handled the fan, we've handled the light. But what do you do when the biggest problem isn't in your room? What do you do when the biggest problem is your own mind just refusing to shut down? This is where we bring in a really powerful and honestly kind of weird mental trick.
I know, it sounds completely backward. Just hear me out for a second. What if you just stopped fighting? What if, instead of trying to fall asleep, your new goal for the next few minutes was to actually not fall asleep.
This is a real, honest-to-goodness psychological technique. It's called paradoxical intention, and it is specifically designed to destroy performance anxiety. By telling yourself it's okay to do the very thing you're afraid of failing at, in this case staying awake, you instantly take away all the pressure to perform.
And what's so great about this is how unbelievably simple it is to actually do. This is the exact phrase you can use. As you're lying there in the dark with your eyes just gently closed, you say to yourself, "My only job right now is to stay awake for the next 5 minutes." That's it. That's the entire task.
And the result? It's kind of amazing. The second you remove the pressure to sleep, that anxiety just evaporates. You've taken away the job you were so afraid of failing at. And in that new, relaxed, pressure-free state, sleep is finally allowed to just happen, often before you even realize it.
So let's pull all this together. Here's your new toolkit for letting go. The big idea here is to shift from monitoring to allowing. And you do that by breaking the clock habit, taking control of your environment with constant air and total darkness, and then, for the final boss battle with your own brain, you use that paradoxical trick of trying to stay awake.
Look, if you only remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. Restful sleep isn't something you can manage or force. It's something you allow. You just have to create the right conditions and then get out of your own way.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to take to bed with you tonight. Of all these things we've talked about, the time, the sounds, the light, the mental gymnastics, what is the one thing you are willing to just stop controlling? What performance are you ready to cancel?